Islam and Ms. Thomas Pavanel. We're really pleased to have you here to talk to us about women-centered community-based research. So,
Okay, so we are going to teach you about community-based research today, okay? And we have three presenters, so myself, Shazia, and Jamie. And actually, the fact that there's three of us presenting is done on purpose, because community-based research is always done as a team, okay? Now, so I want to first ask a question of how many people in the room have heard of community-based research? Okay, so you've heard of community-based research, but even of how many of you actually know what community-based research is? Okay, so this is great. So we're starting at a lower level, so we can really teach you lots this morning, right? So I'm excited about that. So we're going to get started, okay? Okay. And so how we're going to get started, you've just told me a bit about yourself, so I'm going to tell you about myself. How many people in the room are interested in applying to medical school? Okay. And then how many people are interested in doing advanced graduate degrees, so masters or PhDs? Okay. So pretty much you're either already in medical school, or you want to apply to medical school, or do an advanced graduate degree. Is that it? That's kind of the group? Okay. So that's me, I guess, right? Next Friday we're doing actually a career counseling session on June 13th, and all the students are welcome to come. So I'm an infectious disease specialist. I went to Western as an undergrad in chemistry. I love chemistry. And then I did medical school at the University of Toronto, and then I did internal medicine. And then after internal medicine residency, I did infectious diseases. And I've been practicing as an infectious disease specialist since 2001. Okay, I know I look so young, but really. And my practice is at the Maple Leaf Medical Clinic, which is at 14 College, across from the Winners. You know, everyone knows where the Winners is, right? It's across from there. And we're a practice where we have 10,000 patients that are seen by 14 doctors, and about 2,700, so 2,700 are HIV positive. And of my practice, my area of specialty is women and HIV, and pregnancy and reproductive health and HIV. So 80% of my practice is women, and my students actually have come to clinic with me. So I don't know if any of you have a chance to go to clinic during your summer student experience, but it adds a little bit of a different learning experience. So, and did you like that? Was it a good experience? Yeah. So I also do research. So I'm known as a clinician scientist, meaning I see patients, but I also do research. And my research is at Women's College Hospital here, Women's College Research Institute. And you know, how do I choose my topics of research? Really, I choose my topics of research based on what I find are important to my patients. Okay, so I see my patients, and what I see what comes up over and over again, I say, wow, this is a really important topic to my patient. So for example, 10 years ago, the issue of reproductive health and HIV positive individuals can go on treatment now called antiretroviral treatment. Survival is 50 to 60 years from diagnosis now. I don't know if people know that. The chance of transmission of the virus to a baby in Toronto is 0. Okay, so HIV positive individuals should be able to get pregnant and be supported to do so. And there is still quite a bit of stigma and discrimination about that in the community and even amongst the healthcare professionals. And that was important to my patients, so I picked that topic as one of the first topics. that I worked on in research, and so that's how I choose my topics from my patients. And based on that, I founded the Women and HIV Research Program. Who's heard of the Women and HIV Research Program? Oh, just my students? Okay, so now I can say, who's heard of the Women and HIV Research Program? All of you, right? Yeah, okay, good. I founded it at Women's College Research Institute in 2006 with the aim to carry out research deemed to be most important to women living with HIV to aim to optimize their health and well-being. Okay? My plan was to do that with women living with HIV as partners. Okay? So that's the first step of community-based research, so that you're working with the community as partners. Next slide. So what is community-based research? Community-based research isn't just research. It's an approach to research. Okay? So it's the way you do your research. Okay? And it means that there is an equitable partnership between the researcher and the community members. Okay? It's aimed to increase knowledge on a topic deemed to be important to the community. So not important to the researcher, but deemed to be important to the community. And CBR's goal is social action, social change for the purpose of achieving social justice. Okay? Has everyone heard about social justice? Yes, no? We're going to go through it in the talk. Okay? So next slide. This is a really nice table that was put out by the University of Michigan that really shows the difference between community-based research and traditional academic research, which probably a lot of you are doing. I'm all for traditional academic research. It's really important, and it advances science. And I've done it before. I did chemistry and research, but community-based research is a little bit different and has a different purpose. So what are the differences? Well, what's the purpose of the research? In community-based research, the purpose is to provide the community with tools and information that they need to enact change. Okay? Who is the research intended to serve? So in community-based research, it's intended to serve the community, but also the academic community. So you can't just think that doing community-based research benefits the community, right? I'm at the university, I have to go for promotion, right? So clearly, it's a mutual benefit. Do you see that? Whose knowledge counts? Okay? So this is an important topic because sometimes in academic research, you'll have a community advisory board, right? And you'll meet with the community advisory board and get information, but it might not necessarily be applied, right? It's just an important step to do. But in community-based research, the community members and the academics knowledge counts. Okay, and sometimes actually the community's knowledge counts more, right? Because they have lived experience. Who determines what topics are to be researched? It's typically the community. Okay, so they tell you what are important to them, what their needs are, and that's how you choose what to research. Okay. What's the rationale for choosing the research methodology? So in academic research, you'll choose your methodology based on what kind of research question you have, okay? And you might choose ideally you'll do a randomized controlled trial, but sometimes it's not ethical to do a randomized controlled trial for community-based research, okay? So the goal of community-based research includes some degree of community empowerment and mutual learning. Who controls the research? both the community and the researcher control the research as well as own the research. And this is my favorite aspect of community-based research, okay, is that the difference in between academic and community-based research has to do with what aspect is emphasized. So in traditional academic research, you're all about what's the result, okay? You know, getting that slide was the p-value 0.05, 0.05, like that's what's important. What's the final result? In community-based research, it's about the process. The actual whole process is critical. And actually, by doing the research and even addressing the issue, the whole process can lead to social change, not just the end result, if you include the community. And we're going to go through that and show you an example of that. A little bit, oh, is that, okay. And then, so just one final point is that in terms of that process, that community-based research can take a lot of time, okay? So, because you're working with such a large team that it's really diverse, and it's not one person making decisions anymore. It's not the academic making decisions. It's the whole team. So often you're going to learn this word that's in the slides called iterative. Who's heard that term before? Iterative. Who knows what it means? Okay, Angela? Okay. How about you? Do you know any other? What's your name again?
Glenda.
Glenda.
So I'm thinking about doing a repeat process based on your previous results, and you'll go back and make alternative changes where possible.
Right, exactly. So you're both right. So iterative is back and forth. So repeated back and forth. So community-based research often takes a lot of time because you have to speak to the community, and it changes. Sometimes your research question, your process, what you're going to do will change because it didn't match, what the community thinks is going to be helpful to them. So that's an important feature. Okay?
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Jamie, and I am the provincial coordinator for CHIWOS, which we're going to talk a little bit about. It is a community-based project that the Women in HIV Research Program is working on. So just to let you know a little bit about myself, my background, I did my undergrad at McGill in international development, and I completed my master's in public health at the University of Toronto in health promotion, and focused on community development as well as global health. And I really, really have a passion to work abroad, specifically in African countries. But what I realized throughout my master's is that there's a lot of need here, especially regarding health promotion and public health. And so I really decided to focus on communities here in the greater Toronto area. And my interest primarily is with African, Caribbean, and Black communities in the greater Toronto area, and as well as other racialized communities, and as well as women and HIV as well. And I really like community-based research because I found that I really was able to identify a balance between frontline working with the community, which I definitely have a passion for, but also research and recognizing the importance of research. And so CBR, if you're looking for like a little bit of balance of both, I think it's a great place to be. So what is CHIWOS? And we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview. So CHIWOS stands for the Canadian HIV Women's Sexual and Reproductive Health Cohort Study, and we pronounce it as CHIWOS. So Mona loves this. We're going to get everyone to say it together. So can everyone say that on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. CHIWOS! Yay! Okay, great. So that's the project we're going to be talking about today. Just to give you a sense a little bit about our study. So we're a 5-year multi-site prospective cohort study that's rolling out in 3 provinces presently. So we're presently in British Columbia, Quebec, as well as Ontario. In terms of our target sample size, we're looking to enroll 1,400 women living with HIV across Canada. and then we just break it down for you. So we're looking for 350 women in the provinces of BC and Quebec, so 350 in each, and then 700 women here in Ontario. And then in terms of our eligibility criteria, we're looking for women who are over the age of 16, presently living in Ontario, identify or self-identify as being a woman, so trans women are more than welcome to participate in CHIWOS, and have been diagnosed as HIV positive. So those are our criteria. We do operate within women-centered CBR and GPA principles, which we're going to go over today together. And then there's been 2 phases in CHIWOS. So there's been the formative phase, which we've completed already. And so the formative phase was really focus groups that were conducted across the 3 provinces to really identify and converse with women living with HIV to understand their needs and what research needs to be done. And then survey development as well of the CHIWOS survey. And now we're presently in the national phase of CHIWOS, which we launched on October the 1st, which is really exciting. It was a long time coming. We're in the 3rd year of CHIWOS right now. And so within the national survey phase, that is kind of where the recruitment process comes in. Our PRAs are really, really helpful. Shazia is one of our peer research associates. So recruitment at various organizations and sites. We have over 43 sites here in Ontario, which is amazing. And what participants are doing is they're completing about a 2-hour-long survey. And it's all done on the computer. And it's interview administered, so our peer research associates are asking the questions in the survey and guiding participants through that whole interview experience. So there is a baseline interview and then an 18-month follow-up survey as well, which is conducted 18 months after the baseline. And it will be wave 2 of our survey, which is going to be slightly different than the baseline, based on feedback that we received from participants, our PRAs, and just questions that we weren't able to ask in the first survey. And just to give you an idea of why CHIWOS is so important, we wanted to share with you some of the epidemiology and the feminization of HIV in Canada as well as globally. So women now make up more than half of the world's HIV positive population, and in Canada, 23% of people living with HIV and/or AIDS are women. Women are a group whose risk of HIV infection is rapidly increasing. And the gender dynamics of HIV must be incorporated into research as well as care practices. So it's really important to recognize women's unique medical needs. So medical conditions that are unique to women are often and may be prioritized less. Medical conditions and treatments that manifest themselves differently in women may be treated as though they are identical to men when they're not. Obstetric and gynecological as well as fertility care may not be addressed at all. And women struggling with trauma as well as depression and other mental health issues may not be supported in the ways that they should be. We also have to recognize that women's social positioning also often results in distinct needs that should be really considered when providing care for conducting research. So have all of you heard of social determinants of health? Yeah, okay, so that's what we're really going to be talking about today as well. Recognizing that the roles that women often hold within families and communities may really impact their usage of and access to care and services. And the social and economic marginalization, as well as lack of access to control over resources, as well as supports, may really contribute to competing needs. And healthcare may not be a priority. Does anyone have any ideas what competing needs might mean? Any ideas?
Women, like in some cultures, or even in Canada, typically have the role of being the caregiver for the child. So instead of taking care of their own needs, they might prioritize their child and impact their potential health concerns.
That's perfect. Exactly. Yeah, that's great. And so women's positioning may require alternative modes of care delivery, such as in-home care as well. So what are the goals of CHIWOS, you may be asking? So really we're trying to assess the barriers to and facilitators of women-centered HIV services and use, and really assess the impact of such patterns of use on the sexual, reproductive, mental, and women's health outcomes amongst women living with HIV in Canada. So there's something wonky going on with this, this chart for some reason, but this chart is supposed to show the distribution of positive HIV test reports among females by province and territory between 1985 and 2009. And what we just wanted to show you with this slide is the reason why we're focusing right now in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia. So the 39% is related to Ontario, the 25% is related to Quebec, and then the 17% is related to British Columbia. So you can understand why we've started in these three provinces. However, we do have plans to eventually expand to other provinces in the near future. We've submitted some grants to do this, and we hopefully will receive some good news shortly. So we plan to expand to Nova Scotia, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. And so you can see there the blue provinces are the areas that we plan to expand to, and the red provinces are where we are presently. So CHIWOS is often described as the monster project under the Women in HIV Research Program, and I think that the study team structure really demonstrates why we're called the monster. So just like Mona said, community-based research really, collaboration and working together is super important. And so this is just to give you an idea of how CHIWOS functions. So in the middle we have our principal investigator. So Mona is the nominated PI and the PI here in Ontario. Alexandra de Pocamandi, right there in the middle, she is the PI in Quebec. And then we have Angela Kaida and Bob Hogg, who are the PIs in British Columbia. As you can see at the bottom there, we have community advisory boards who really guide the project, and we have provincial CABs. So each province meets with their CAB on a regular basis. Then we have our core research team and our PRA teams, which are also provincial as well. On the right here, you see more of our national bodies. So we have a national management team, which consists of our coordinators, PIs, as well as PRA representatives. We have national core research team, national steering committee. And so you can see there that we work on a provincial level, but we also ensure that we're working at a national level as well. And then on the far left there, you see various working groups that are very, very involved and have been very active throughout the various stages of the project. So for example, we have the Knowledge Transfer and Exchange Working Group, who does a lot of the KTE, or like the social media, presentations, that sort of stuff. We also have our CADPA, which is our Aboriginal Advisory Board, which also guides the direction of CHIWOS, focusing on the needs of Aboriginal women living with HIV. So that's just to give you an idea of how CHIWOS works and how important it is to have really transparency and open communication amongst all members on the team to ensure we're all on the same page and working well together. So Mona also mentioned that we're going to be going over some of the guiding frameworks of CHIWOS, and this is a list of many of them. So we're going to be talking about critical feminism, anti-oppression, intersectionality, as well as social justice, social determinants of health, JIPA, which is the greater involvement of people living with HIV and AIDS, MIWA, which is the meaningful involvement of women living with HIV and AIDS, and community-based research. And so I think this is like a really, I think Mona agreed, and Shaz as well, that this is like a really important piece of CHIWOS, and if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask us about these frameworks. We're just going to give you kind of a general overview, but you could go into discussions at length about any of or all of these frameworks. So in regards to critical feminist framework, so this is really considering the impact of structural inequalities and gender-based marginalization, as well as oppression, and how that influences the lives of women as well as other minority groups. So although we understand that women have unique needs and face unique oppressions, we also recognize that there's an intersectionality, or there's diverse aspects of identity and reality that really shape individuals' experiences, as well as the experiences of various communities. So it's also taking into account how sexism, racism, as well as classism, ableism, and homophobia, as well as transphobia and HIV-related stigma, and how they all kind of intersect amongst these axes of oppression. In terms of anti-oppression, so anti-oppression really further emphasizes that people from minority groups within and between societies are positioned differently and are really differently impacted by the complexities of privilege and power relations. And this is something that we're going to discuss at length, but hopefully we'll have some time at the end of our presentation to kind of talk about power and privilege and how it's at play in your day-to-day lives, or even here when you come to work every day, and how power interacts in those relationships. In regards to intersectionality, so we touched upon this already, but recognizing that there's an overlapping and an intersecting nature of oppressions and how these shape the lives of people and their experiences as well. And then social justice, which holds emancipatory goals of creating meaningful change in affected communities to challenge oppression, improve health, eliminate barriers, and further social justice. And then what we brought up earlier, so social determinants of health, which I think many of you are aware of. So we all know that, or hopefully we all know that social factors really have key implications for health, which is why simply administering primary or medical treatment is often really insufficient in terms of improving health. Like, we really have to look at other factors that are at play, such as poverty, gender inequality, and other factors that have major impacts on women's vulnerability, as well as their health problems and access to care and services, as well as support. Is everyone still awake? Yeah? Okay, it's a lot of info, but we're going to kind of debrief about it. So thanks for staying with me. So for JIPA, the greater involvement of people living with HIV and AIDS. So people, in our case for CHIWOS, we're looking at women living with HIV. We recognize them as equal partners in all stages of the project. And this is what Mona was saying, is that the knowledge of community members really does come from lived experiences, and it's really, really valuable, and sometimes very much more important than the researchers' knowledge and experiences. So this is practiced with the intent to foster self-determination and agency in the community, and we do make a concerted effort to avoid tokenism. Does anyone have an idea what tokenism might be? Nobody?
Angela looks like finding one person of a different community and saying that's representative of everyone, like having a token.
Yeah.
The one person.
Exactly, like just hiring one person from a different, who identifies has a different racial identity, for example, or is from a minority group, and saying that we're being fair by hiring this one person of color.
But tokenism also means where, so for example, we would have somebody part of the team who's an Aboriginal woman, and because that's a group that's highly affected by HIV, and we don't actually listen to what she says or incorporate what she says, but that if people look at us, we have the Aboriginal woman as part of our team, and so it's tokenism in the sense that she's not being meaningfully involved. So there's the greater involvement of people living with HIV and/or AIDS, but there's also MIPA and MIWA, the meaningful involvement. So the greater involvement's not important. It's actually meaningful involvement that's important. That Aboriginal woman is part of our team and is an equal partner, and we really incorporate her voice and her expertise. Does that make sense? So that's what tokenism is. So we're like anti-tokenism.
Yes. Okay, and then so principles of community-based research, which Mona talked a lot about already, and it ties into all that we've discussed. So regarding JIPA, MIWA, so women living with HIV are recognized as equal partners in all stages of the project. And partnerships have been formed from the beginning, and as well as on an ongoing basis, to really drive the goals of the study, the design, and also disseminating the knowledge created from the project. And so I am happy to introduce Shazia, who is one of our peer research associates. So she's going to tell you a little bit about herself.
Great. Before I begin, I just want to say that I have a voice disorder. So at any point you're not understanding what I'm saying or can't hear, just ask me to speak up a little bit or repeat. I have no problems with that. So I just want to first thank you all for being here, because it's really wonderful to see that future healthcare providers and researchers are interested in community-based research. It's a very, very important aspect of research, and I'd like to see more of that happening within our communities. So thank you all for being here. A little bit about myself. Okay, well, currently I'm the Women's Health and Support Coordinator at an AIDS service organization, the Alliance for South Asian AIDS Prevention. diagnosed in 2009, and I waited about a year. And after a year, I volunteered for ASAP. Once I started volunteering for ASAP, we recognized the need to have a women-specific program within the agency. And once we got the funding for that, that's when the job sort of opened up, and then I applied. And so now I've been working there for about 2.5 years, and it's been an amazing experience for me. Likewise, my second role is as peer research associate for CHIWOS, and again, it's been an amazing experience, and we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that as a group, sort of like looking at the ways that it's been empowering and inspiring for PRAs like myself. My interests, again, are in CBR, community-based research. I feel that's really, really important to have the community's voice in research, and not just the voice, but agency. Does anyone know what agency is? Agency. What do I mean by agency? What do I mean by saying pause women's agency, for example? That's where we are sort of part of that discussion, and we are leading that discussion. We are helping to formulate a plan. So we're very much involved. And just going back to the talk about tokenism as well, like I think it's really, really important that we recognize a lot of the barriers that pause women, when I say pause, I mean women living with HIV, face. A lot of the intersectionalities, if we're looking at the social determinants of health, we're recognizing that the impact of poverty, the impact of violence, the impacts of education, language, immigration status, all of these things play into that, into those intersectionalities. And so I think it's really important to provide sort of like a capacity building piece into that inclusion. And what I mean by capacity building is training, is providing training so that these women feel comfortable and confident in that role. Okay? And then as well, I'm a huge advocate for LGBTQ rights. Pride is coming up, so hopefully I'll see some of you out there in the march. I'll be involved as well. Okay, so in terms of operational, I think I'm just going to move back a little bit so I can read a little bit here. CHIWOS is huge, like as we've seen the structure of CHIWOS, it's a huge sort of undertaking, and so making it work requires the input of a lot of different groups and individuals. So just over here, the national and provincial core research team, the steering committee include many representatives of stakeholder communities. Does anyone know what stakeholder means? What's a stakeholder? Anyone? Stakeholder? Yeah.
Some of them have like a vested interest in the results of the project. So is someone in the community impacted by the research, or the researchers themselves, so all the working together?
Absolutely. So they've been, we want to include those stakeholders who have been traditionally marginalized and silenced, again, particularly women living with HIV. We also have our community advisory boards. They've been formed in each province to further collaboration and cater to local needs. Again, like myself, the PRAs, we've been hired as partners to guide the study and facilitate the focus groups. Knowledge translation is being led by PRAs to ensure that community voices are heard and implemented. PRA hiring, training, and involvement. So as I said, the capacity building piece, that's definitely here. Job postings were circulated, applications reviewed, and interviews completed. Total number of PRAs hired, 20 in Ontario, plus 1 allied interviewer. So what do I mean by allied interviewer? Anyone? Allies? Yeah?
Somebody in the community who works at an ASO, for example, an AIDS service organization, and may not be HIV positive, but is a very strong advocate for HIV positive.
Absolutely, yes. And
So they're an ally.
yeah, so they're an ally. And just part of that process involved getting the input of the PRAs to ensure that, we felt included, our voice was included in that decision. And then we have 9 PRAs in BC, 9 in Quebec, and plus one more allied interviewer. There was a 3 to 4 day in-person training in each province in the spring of 2013. The training itself was amazing. We had like a huge group. I don't know how many. Were we all here at that time? Yeah. So all of the PRAs were here, and it was a wonderful way to sort of build networks with the PRAs. We covered the very extensive curriculum, including frameworks, research principles, ethics, logistics, surveying techniques, problem solving, and definitely self-care. There were also follow-up trainings done because I think once the survey was completed, we had to figure out ways to navigate the survey. For many of us, it was the first time sort of implementing an online survey. A lot of us are generally not online a lot, so definitely those trainings helped. And then we also have monthly PRA teleconferences. So this is where the PRAs can come together, maybe express any concerns, updates, or questions that they might have. More on operationalizing CBI. Well, I think Jamie sort of touched on this earlier. So again, we have all of these different communities and organizations and individuals helping us sort of keep the program running. Update. So we had our official CHIWOS launch, the English survey, October 1st, 2013, and then that was followed by the French survey, November 15th. Participants recruited and interviewed since then. We've been doing really, really well, and I think it's picked up momentum since we started. So basically, nationally, we've had already 750 interviews. Ontario, 396, Quebec, 158, BC, 196. We've received a lot of positive feedback from PRAs and participants about the survey. And we'll, again, as a PRA, I can definitely talk a lot about that. And we'll get to that later. And of course, there's ongoing support structures for PRAs. Mona and Jamie, oh my gosh, she's been amazing. She not only does sort of like the emailing, making sure that we know when the next meeting is, etc., but she's also very supportive of just, like self-care, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Yeah, you're amazing. Okay. Knowledge translation and exchange, again, we did touch on that. Following an integrated knowledge translation approach, the findings will be published to contribute to academic body of knowledge and also made accessible and available to community members. Based on results, recommendations for changes to policy or new best practices may allow for improvements in care and support for women living with HIV. So again, having all of you here, hopefully will raise awareness about how important sort of like a holistic approach to healthcare is. It's not just about filling in the numbers, giving the results. It's about really, finding out what the reality is for patients, for people who come to see you for care and support. Policy programming and service stakeholders are a part of the study from the very beginning. So again, the JIPA-MIPA principles involving women living with HIV. Okay, so in terms of knowledge translation, you can find us on social media. We don't have a Tumblr page. We need to get a Tumblr page. Okay, that'll be the next step. So we've got a Twitter. We've also got our website and a Facebook page, and we post a lot of our updates there. So please follow us. Okay. We've got a national newsletter that's going to be circulated very soon. And again, PRA-led KTE in their community. So for example, my role as a support worker, I'm out there in the community a lot. I do a lot of networking. I talk to people about the research study. And there are other activities. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you.